How's everybody doing today? I'm sitting here with activist Steve Young, and we're going to discuss what's on everybody's mind today, and that is voting. Steve, what do you think?
Steve Young here, and it's a pleasure to be here. I want to say peace to everyone. That's what we truly need, peace right now. Voting definitely is the issue right now today. If you haven't voted, you're too late. I'll say it like that. You take that envelope that you probably lost and don't know where it's at and fill it out and vote.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a shame that dead people are going to vote and you're alive and you're not voting. That's how important voting is.
Yes,
That
it
means the
is.
person that already put in their ballot, turned in their ballot, their vote on account. Even though they make an incident or something may happen and they end up dead tomorrow, their vote still will be counted. And here you are, a person that's alive and taking it for granted that your vote going to be counted, and you wait until the last second.
Well, the funny thing about it is I made sure that I voted. This is the first time I voted by mail, but I did it early, and it felt a whole lot better because one of the things that for people that have problems getting to the polls, they don't have a car, uh, they can't walk, they don't want to get on the bus, and it gets discouraging. So maybe you don't want to make that effort.
Well, voting it's key because it brought the light to a lot of things. COVID-19 brought about the mail-in ballots. If we didn't have COVID-19, we would have to wait till that. Most people would wait till that day to go there to vote, and
Right.
there'd be lines across the highway,
That'd have
and
been
it's still
me.
lines there anyway.
Yeah.
It's line now before election day right now in some cities and some states. So it's very important that we don't take that for granted. The time we have to vote, as well as the opportunity. So a lot of people years ago they didn't have the right to vote. I mean, especially look at those who are on probation and parole. For the
Yeah.
first time, you have people over 80,000 in New Jersey alone that voted for the first time in their life because they didn't have the opportunity, even though they said, and this is in our Constitution and the Voting Civil Rights Voting Rights Act, that black people can vote. But yet, when you was incarcerated or had a record, you weren't allowed to. So you still considered a slave. But look what changed that. What changed that, the people through legislation that voted put the pressure on them from the street to legislation, because that's what we do. We demonstrate, we negotiate, and then we legislate.
And the thing about that is, some black folks poo-poo that marching stuff, but they don't realize that marching may not be the end all be all, but is a process.
Listen, this whole country marched for had wars in order to have the opportunity to be heard and to have that vote. There's no way anybody in their right mind can say that marching and all those things didn't get us that right.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you're not out there doing it, you'll try to find an excuse to say the reason why you won't.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what you're hearing from a lot of people. But without the marches, the demonstration, you would not have the legislation
And
because that's what brought it about.
that's what people don't get. It's a process. It's not like, well, you march and then something happens. No, I was telling the guy one time before, I says, well, these guys ain't doing nothing. I says, it's a process, brother. You gotta follow the process.
Well, people
Nothing
like that,
happens overnight.
but what they do is, I mean, they're the first ones to take advantage of us being out there on the front street. See, and that day is over now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You've been in the comfort zone, sit back for those on the front line with their life on the line in the street. But that's what happened to Dr. Martin Luther King and others. They fought for Voting Rights Act, and then the legislators up there like, oh shoot, but we can do this. Well, yeah, you can do this, but the person that was on the front line need to be the one to benefit the most from it.
Yes.
Not the ones that's sitting in the office,
Yeah.
not the ones that's in the comfort zone, not the one that's saying marching ain't nothing. It's the ones that's on the front line should benefit the most. And that's how legislation started. Because they marched because their rights, they didn't have rights. And that's why it's very important. And a lot of young people are voting for the first time because Black Lives Matter, and what the racism that we've seen throughout this country when it comes to voting And when it comes to elections with your president, I mean, it's been unheard of racially wise.
Well, see, that's why I says we must black the vote. And what
Yes.
I mean by black the vote is that black folks, young and old, need to get out and cast their ballots because this is I'm 60 years old, and this is out of all the years that I've lived, this is the most crucial time that I have ever experienced. Because if those knuckleheads get in office, we in trouble.
Well, I beg your pardon. We're in trouble anyway.
Anyway,
I'm gonna tell you why. If we don't, after election day, no matter who wins, hold them accountable and be responsible, you're not a responsible voter.
right,
So it's just not no one-time voting. That's why we
right,
got to educate everyone how important it is to vote, but to carry the vote out when it comes to responsibility that you have individually. Every one vote, one person, and that's for a reason. So you, as an individual, have that responsibility after you vote to go and hold them accountable. And how you do that, we got to educate people in. You go to the meetings and you speak up about your rights. You speak up about legislation and different things. Because look what happened last week with the president. What he did, he won the nomination of Superior Court nominee.
yeah,
Now here it is. He's going to be out in a couple of weeks. He said, "I'm not waiting. This is how important it is to vote," because he said, I'm going to do this right now." But when President Barack Obama tried to do it, what happened was, because we just talk about president and not talk about Senate and the Congress. See, those are things we should have learned in elementary school.
yeah. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. These are the things that, you know, the Democratic Party, that's not like black conservatives will say that the Democratic Party been lying to y'all and calling us trained chimpanzees and all this crazy stuff. But they don't realize that we understand that Democratic Party is not the end all be all. It's like you just said. Once they get in office, we have to hold them accountable. So we see what's going on. But we're not crazy enough to jump out of the frying pan into the fire with the Republicans.
Well, we got to look at this. Before we had the right to vote, white folks were still treating us the way we are. Whether you Democrat or Republican.
Yep.
So we got to realize whoever's there, it's about accountability and your responsibility. We can't find no way out of this, but we got to correct the situation because the Constitution ain't right.
Right.
I mean, let's start with the root of how this Constitution and this government was founded in this country. It took a war.
Yeah.
You have to have, in order to have peace, you got to have a war first. Nobody can dispute that. We talk about all this freedom, but it happened through violence. But when we get out in the street in a peaceful manner, they want to lock us up.
They want to lock us up.
But yet they had guns, taking people's property, killing, hanging people, and still doing the day to us
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted to use their freedom of being a human being. And that's how important it is to vote.
It is. And, I talk to guys as early as this week. You voting? No, I ain't voting. I had to keep my mouth shut because it's like, what's rattling around in your head to make you think that you shouldn't vote? Well, he says, well, ain't nothing going to change. That's the problem.
Well, see, that's where education comes in.
Yeah.
And that's basically that was your responsibility to educate that person.
Yeah.
And to not give up on them, but to say, like, listen, well, your children go to school, right? Well, who's making the decision on their books and how much is paid it comes through elections to school board candidates. It comes through election. They choose the person to tell you what your child will eat in school.
Yeah.
So, and matter of fact, when you go to jail, if you get a ticket, some of those judges are picked and chosen through legislators, which come from the people that voted. See, government is of the people and authority of the people. See, that's what they mean by, the government's supposed to be for the people, by the people.
Right.
See, and they took an oath. And we must remind I don't call them politicians. Let them know they are public servants. See, when you call them politicians, they become politicians with trigonometry.
I like
So
that.
we got to educate them as well. You're there from the authority of the people. So that means we give you authority to vote this way. We give you authority to do. You wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us. And the thing about it, you're using our money. You're getting paid somehow
Yeah, yeah. And
through our taxpayer money.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why it's authority of the people. That's why I was set up that way. But it wasn't. But the responsibility of the people. And most white people understand that. They understand that the power that they have of the people. That's why they use us all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they divide and conquer us, Republican, Democrat. I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, rich or poor. You drive down the street with a hoodie on your head or walk down the street in a hoodie, you can be a judge, a prosecutor,
And
all
they
the money.
don't get that.
You're black and you're going to get stopped and you're going to be treated like as so.
And they don't get that. And that's what blows my mind. I'm always talking about Candace Owens because she's the face of black people on the television now. Not that she's all important. But here's the thing. It's just like you said. No matter whether you're a conservative Republican or liberal Democrat, if you black, you get caught in the wrong situation, you done.
Let's speak truth to power. Now here it is. Most of the legislation through law enforcement come from a majority of white people being in authority.
Right.
So what happens with that? Most of the black people and young people are getting killed. Some of them unarmed, some of them in the house, some of them walking, some of them you see them just shot in Philadelphia.
Just happened. Just happened.
It's not going to stop because what fear do law enforcement have towards killing black people?
Right.
This is like there's no difference in what they're doing killing black people than hunting.
Right.
When you hunt for something, you train to hunt. So you look at the target mostly black or black face, and you shoot that target towards practicing how you're going to, when you get out in the field and in the jungle, to shoot black people. Now that's just facts.
I said that in a blog a while ago. It was like, they're hunting us. Now they call it, no, we are enforcing the law. No, that's just a ruse because you are hunting us.
Look, what happened yesterday, whatever day in Philadelphia, that was terrorism.
Yeah.
You come through the community, a bullet could have shot anybody.
Yep. And
you aimed it at the mother, the child, and anybody who was out there. Those guns was aimed at anybody.
Yep.
And you shot that boy all those times. When they hunting for an animal in the woods, a deer or a bear coming at them, they only shoot once.
Yep.
Why 30, 40 bullets, 12, 13? I mean, really? That's an overkill.
They have no respect for black humanity. They have they've been doing it, but now it's more prevalent. They have dehumanized a black face,
and that's
meaning that we are an object,
Absolutely.
Meaning that we're not that important, meaning that they can do whatever they want to us.
And that's why voting is important. And we don't change the legislation that says you become the criminal for killing black folks. And there's some type of penalty for that. You lose your license to carry a gun. Yeah. You can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's certain penalties and different things. Oh, make it mandatory that you live in the community. There's certain things by legislation we can make it happen. And that's why voting is important. And then when it comes to even the other way around, they say, well, they're killing each other, blacks killing each other. Well, we killing but listen to this. They're not getting paid through taxpayers' money to kill.
I'm going to remember that point. That's what they always throw up in our face. And I always tell them, I says, listen, we got people that's dealing with the black on black crime. But because we have black on black crime does not give you the right to execute us and hunt us and treat us like we're non-humans. You don't have that right just because there's black on black crime in the community. When white folks say that is an insult. And remember that. When they says, well, what are y'all talking about? Y'all got black on black crime, implying that it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not that important simply because y'all have black on black crime. I hate it when they say that.
And, the one thing about that, look at the white on white crime.
Well, that's the other part of
Look
the
at the
issue.
criminal. Let's look at what they're doing and what they have done to the black man in the wilderness in North America here. The imprisonment, the school, the prison pipeline. First of all, taxpayers' money is paid for education. That's not thorough enough through because of legislation and voting. We're not getting responsible people in office to hold them responsible to actually be about a real education for our children, learning the basics of how a bill becomes a law, and learning the basics about different things, home
Yeah.
economics and different things like that. And what happens is, so you have our children, we spend about $18,000 a year for our children to go to school, in 12 years almost. And most of them getting out of school without a high school, without knowing how to read and write, and can't
Yeah.
fill out an application. But you tell them to pull up their bootstraps, but you took the strings away and put them around our neck. But how can we
Right.
pull ourselves our own bootstraps and you took the strings and now you choking and you got your knee on our neck?
You know, I got to go back to this black on black crime thing because it's important. What they don't realize is that there are more white crimes committed with guns
That's right.
and
And bombs.
and that's the other thing. There are only mass murderers who are white that take hundreds of lives
In
if they
schools.
can. In schools. And you talking about the gangbanging we got on in our community, opposed to, now let's just be real. Here you got a mass murder over here that has killed 1,000 people. And over here, you got 20 people over here over a course of a year that may have gotten shot and killed. So you tell me, what should you be talking about? The mass murderers? Not that any of it's right. Not that any of it's right. But let's be logical and honest. You need to be talking about those mass murderers who are white that commit terrorism in this country. For no other reason than they didn't like their mom for some reason. It's crazy.
Exactly. And then look at what the violence and the killings mostly are used with guns.
Guns, yeah.
We don't know no gun stores in our community.
Nope.
There ain't no gun store. You can't even buy a bullet nowhere. You know what I'm saying? But yet, these are the tools that's used to kill us.
Yeah.
Because you've psyched up the mind of most of the people to have fear within each other. Because you fear the blackness of the skin. You were born and raised that way as white folks.
Yeah.
I mean, see, racism been swept under the rug so long, so many years. I mean, I've been saying black here in this city for a long time, and they was like, "Oh, get away from that. It's militant. No, it's the truth. It's racism.
Right.
Who knows best what racism look like, but the ones that's been affected the most by it.
Meaning that you can't tell our story or you can't articulate our hurt and pain. You can't do that, especially if you're white. How are you going to talk about what affects a black person and you're not black?
And you can ask any white person, mostly white people, will they trade seats with us?
No.
To be black? Not even for a day, not even 24 hours.
Not even, no.
That speaks volumes.
It speaks volumes. And, that's why it is so important that I tried to talk to the brother, but I just couldn't get through to him. But that's why it's so important for us to be able to reach out to our community and let them know that this vote is paramount. This might be the only serious time that your life is on the line because of voting.
And that's why I like what you're doing here, because what we don't have is television around.
Right.
We don't have a news channel around. It's just designed that way.
Yeah.
Here you took away all these things, and we don't even have a radio station around here. Now, we used to have a black radio station. We used to have local television stations. Why was it taken away? Because of the information? Because you're waking up people up? I mean, that's a form of genocide as well.
Yeah, black genocide. There's a term. They don't use genocide as much. They use domicide, which actually means that a government with its police force has targeted black and brown people. But I'll send you that information.
But genocide means your genes, because of you have it in your genes and your culture to be black. It's about extermination, eliminating you.
Yeah,
As a human being, to have a gene in your body, and some white people that have the genes in their body from black folk, they catch it too.
They do.
So that's why we say a genocide, because it's actually, and look at the genocide right here in Atlantic City. Here it is. There was a place in the hospital, maternity ward, where you can be born at. Born, as people who say they're born and raised here for the last 10 to 15 years, they took away the maternity ward. So now the infant mortality rate of dying from inside before you even being born has increased. What other people you can do that with than us? And we got leadership that's not saying anything about it. So we know I'm part of the Black Men United Coalition to bring that back.
You mean
the black agenda?
The mayor didn't broach that topic?
Listen, anyone that's in a leadership position and have their voice to be heard is not speaking up about the genocide of what's happening to mostly our black women that's pregnant here, and young people as well. It used to go 5 minutes, call the ambulance, you're 5 minutes away. It's a forced labor. You can walk home or you catch a jitney or anything. Right. Can you imagine a woman pregnant and she getting forced labor? She called the ambulance. She gets offshore like 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes away, right? At the mainland. That's the only hospital, as well as Summers Point, right? Shaw Memorial. That's the only one with maternity wards now, right? So now they get there and it's forced labor. Now how you gonna get back home? Now the pressure. See, that's what brings about the infant mortality rate, because the pressure of a mother carrying a child trying to get back home to her other children is pressure. So now it brings about miscarriages of our children. So that's an inhumane issue that everybody, if you're a human being, you should feel that.
So the city council haven't dealt with that issue either?
No. Matter of fact, City Council, CRDA, and those other entities throughout the state. And right now, the state is controlling Atlantic City through the Municipal Stabilization and Recovery Act. Those who don't know from voting, what happened, you voted for, those who voted for Chris Christie as Republican, they wanted to take over Atlantic City. But they asked that the budget and the decrease of the revenue to come in Atlantic City because of the taxes. Let's see, if the taxes go up, then you got to borrow the money from the state. So we borrowed what we call transitional aid, the city council did. And when they borrowed transitional aid, you got to sign an agreement, which is called a memorandum of understanding, the MOU. So when you sign that, you're saying you're giving up your rights and your sovereignty of the people, and your vote don't count. The state can hire, fire, and do veto power and does all that. That's the state we in.
So that passed.
Yes, we in that situation right now. And what angers me, and angers a lot of us, that we're waking people up to this, your city council and your mayor do not have any powers anymore. The state is running the agenda because we owe them money. And they're supposed to be taking over Atlantic City for 5 years until they bring us out of debt. That debt started off about $150 million. Don't you know it's up to about 300 million? Whoa. So how did it get increased? And now they're saying they got to keep us in this situation a little longer now. And that means they in charge of hiring fire. And if they don't see nothing being done right, the governor has veto power. They say, no, you can't do that. And ain't nothing nobody can say about it. That's a civil rights violation at its best. We're in a colony. This is worse than South Africa. We worse than that, but we haven't woke up. Who are you going to tell? How are we going to get this information out other than what you're doing and others doing podcasts and so forth?
So I got to deal with this. So when the mayor had the press conference about you, basically he ain't got no power like that.
Absolutely not.
So what?
You see what happened with me. We did the demonstrations, black man, we get arrested. He threatens to arrest us and everything. He threatened to go personally after me, Mayor Small. He said, well, I'm going to make sure you're off of the planning board, which I'm the chairman of the board, right? And basically, that's a non-paid position, and it's a volunteer position. So I'm sitting there volunteering my time. on behalf of the community, not no separate group. And then on the civilian advisory board, they have to deal with relationship with police. So now these are volunteer, non-paid positions, but the mayor said he's gonna take me off. Why would you want to take somebody off of being a volunteer? Why would you threaten somebody with those type of things? See, politics play, and that's why they wanted to have a hearing, so they wanted to take a vote. The council did, because you got to go through the council, because that's a legislative matter, right? So the mayor asked council to put me on the agenda for a special meeting to take away this position. So what happened was, when they brought it up on the time to vote, the state said, take it off the agenda. Everybody was like, wait a minute, hold it. I thought council and the mayor, but no, the state run this. They just the forefront. Now that should have woke everybody up. So then it goes a little further. So they put it back on the agenda again. So now I'm like, okay, bring it. Because we would welcome an investigation, because or whatever you want to bring it to try to get me off. Because if I'm right, I'm gonna fight. You're dealing with the right one.
Of course.
Now,
Yeah.
you're gonna fight. I'm gonna fight for something that's voluntary. Just think, if I had a job working for the city, you would retaliate for me having a peaceful demonstration, and I've had hundreds of them in the city. And this going on all over the country, saying Black Lives Matter because of George Floyd and whatnot. And if we didn't stand up and do nothing, nothing would have been heard around here.
You're right.
So
And see,
instead of supporting the issue, you see how politics work? That's why it's very important that you hold them responsible. And when the mayor got in office, you know what I told him? And I told the mayor before him and Ushery, our first black mayor. And I said, listen, you are the mayor. And I'm going to hold you as responsible. When I see you doing something wrong, I'm going to pull your coattail. And know why? Because I care.
Right.
I care about our community.
Right.
So when you do something wrong, I'm going to check you. I'm going to pull your coattail. And you should welcome that. If you got a bunch of yes people around you, they don't care about you.
Right. They don't. So basically, he had this big press conference and he's basically a lame duck.
Exactly. So if anything happens, if anything goes on in the council and the mayor in Atlantic City, it's the state that's letting it go by. It's not nobody else.
Did y'all hear that?
The state is, and that's the part that's taking all the luxury taxes out of the city. Most of the gambling taxes they control through casino reinvestment. The state does, not the city. It goes out to the state. Hotel taxes, parking taxes, all of those monies going out, but it didn't help us get out of debt. And that's the reason why you took over. Isn't that kind of hypocritical for the state? And then to put the black people out front, black council and black mayor out front to say, look, y'all go ahead and do what y'all do, whatever we tell you. As long as you ain't doing nothing we don't like, you all right. So you're a puppet for the state.
So, well, first of all, I had a problem with the mayor, and I didn't know, because I just moved to Atlantic City. I didn't know that the state was running everything. So I had a problem with the mayor calling the press conference on one individual. You the mayor, what are you doing? What? You could have did everything that he did and not have a press conference.
Absolutely.
It would have been no big deal. But to me, it says something about your character when you are in the highest position in Atlantic City and you call a press conference on a black man who's trying to do right. And as you said, you're the only one out there pushing the envelope. Now, some people says, well, I don't like Steve Young. I says, okay, you can have that right. But he's doing the right thing for us.
And you know what? And I tell about everybody that says that to somebody else but won't come to me and say,
Yeah.
Tell them to come see that.
Well,
And the reason why I can only speak for, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
The experience that I have
Right.
brings me to the level of where I'm at now.
Right.
That's what I tell young people, because I have a radio program every Thursday, 5 to 6. So I'm 60 years old, as well as you. So I have a 20-year-old black man on my show and a 19-year-old Hispanic guy.
Yeah.
So it says it's a generation gap. But I explained them to him. I may have experience, and y'all say, "Oh, you know everything." No, I don't know everything, because
It's
okay, because what happened was, we're learning, and we want everybody to understand this about our young people. We as elders and pioneers never went through what they are going through today.
yeah,
Never. We never experienced at that age of 15, 16, 19, and 21 what they going through with this racism, what they going through the prison, school to prison
prison
pipeline,
pipeline. Yeah,
all those things. And with COVID-19, we at that age, no school for all this time, we never even thought of that would never happen to us, but it's happening to them. So we got to use their experience as well as ours
yeah,
in order to
yeah.
bridge the gap and come together. And that's what we need to tell people about their children. We're going through something now, post PTSD.
Well, actually, we've been in that for a while because of the
Yes.
depression, the pressure of being black, and there's been a study on this that the black community suffers from PTSD because of the pressure of their skin color, because of bigotry, hatred, especially now,
Right.
and racism. But like I said, if you're standing up for what is right for our people, then we have to unite as a group, as a block.
And that's why, now, I'm with the National Action Network and President.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
And as well as I'm with the Peacekeepers who do patrols interacting in the community. It's an international group. We wear orange saying I'm President for Peace. And also I have my own company dealing with Kentucky Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? There's a lot of other businesses and different people all over the state that's like that. So basically, we put together what's called Black Men United Coalition, which is not an organization, but we network with other organizations. So I don't have to use this one title.
Right.
I can use everybody else's experiences and talents towards dealing with making our community better with a black agenda. Because we don't have our own plan. We've used their plan and we end up on the plantation.
Which it brings you back to the point. He said, the mayor said he dismissed your agenda out of hand.
You can't dismiss the community.
But here's the thing.
It's bigger than me.
So either he didn't read it. Well, obviously he didn't.
He read it. I'm telling you why I know he read it. He took some of our concepts and started to try to implement it through government.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was the Christopher Columbus Enlightenment. That was one of the things on it. We talked about the hospital. We talked about the youth programs. He tried to do it, but everything backfired because it wasn't in the right spirit of networking with the people that's been affected the most to implement it.
Now, I'm not a black nationalist, meaning that I will vote for anybody that's black, regardless of their character, regardless of what they do. No, I'm not that way. But if you're standing up for right and doing the right thing, then I'm standing with you. Now, but if you're wrong, then as you said, we got to pull.
That's right.
Your coattails.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because politically wise, about the press conference that he did personally against me, personal attack. Look what's going on right now politically with him and his wife, with the school situation of a relative of his wife as well as him that was staying in this city a few blocks from here. That was in our school system, and it's alleged that he was using pornography with the young children, sending things all over the internet. You heard my certain word, right? Alleged. We're going by basically the FBI report because we got a copy of that. It was on the media, so we read it. But here it is. If you knew about these things and you kept it quiet, the danger of our children is very important towards your character. That knowing that something like this should have been reported to law enforcement, because when it happened to the black community, we yell at our children. Here come Diapers knocking at the door with the police, and they're trying to take your children out. So when something like this happened in the school system, as well as our community, and the person is steady elevated to even working for the state for the Division of Child and Protective Services.
Now,
before they caught,
he can't even. Let's just be real. How do you throw stones in a glass house? All it is like the chickens come home to roost. Because of that personal attack, now this is starting to blow up in his face.
Right.
Now, it,
But did I have a press conference?
no, you
And
didn't.
did I say, listen, look, man, this is what's allegedly happened? Did I threaten to take away his position or anything like that? Did I go after his cousin that done this?
Right.
I mean, those type of things. See, your character is very important.
It is.
And the first thing they try to kill is your character, so people won't follow the
Character
message.
assassination.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the message.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see, that's what I love. And that's what every politician is going to learn when COVID-19 is over and these meetings start happening. Black Lives Matter never had a leader. That's what makes it successful. That's why they're trying to beat it down.
And they're always trying to make leaders.
Right. And what happens, I don't consider myself as a leader. I have information and I have experience. And so do you. And I don't short yours no longer less than mine. So what happened, we're saying with the coalition, that experience that you have of being black, in this part of the black agenda, let's increase our wealth. Let's increase our education. We can do these things together. And we've been all the way through the state. Why they looking at Little Lang City? We've been all the way through the state. We holding the head person that got 97% of the black vote accountable. Yeah. And that's the governor.
Yeah.
He's the head white person in charge. And we know he put black people, put lieutenant governor, like they're the block, so we won't look at him.
Yeah.
He put the mayor there. Look, you do your things. We looking at you. You can't fool everybody.
And that's what I try to tell people that say that and I'm big on this, when the conservatives say that we are asleep. No, we know what's going on.
That's right.
I don't care what the Democratic Party does. And of course they don't have clean hands, but we know what's going on. So, but again, we're not going to switch out the Democratic Party for the Republican Party.
But what I can say from experience, being in the Democratic Party since 1984, when I first, started voting, helped Jesse Jackson, first black man, anything. I was in the Democratic Party, and on the county level, of being on the executive committee, of being the sergeant of arms. So I'm there as a leader representing the community through the Democratic Party. So I've just resigned from those executive positions on those boards because I said, you have not done nothing for our black community. And see, we gave them a way out.
Right.
Here it is, Black Lives Matter. We're marching. We need, we need support. If you even write a flyer or do an ad, you can do something. But you're not supporting it at all, then you're against Black Lives Matter. It speaks for itself. Now, that's the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Yeah. But if I'm going to say I'm a Democrat, then I have a problem with saying that's a hypocritical for me to be saying I'm a part of it and you're not doing nothing for black folks. So I understand that.
Yeah.
So what happened? And I said, look, you ain't supporting the black agenda, you ain't supporting the black people. And I know it firsthand because I'm here. See, when you at their table, you see it all.
Yeah.
So you can't say I'm wrong. So I wrote him a letter, and then I said, wait a minute. The person you got running for sheriff, it's alleged that he's part of a systemic racist group.
That's why I didn't vote for him.
And I said, you know what? I said, y'all supporting that? And don't bring it to your attention? And then you got a man that locked up 7 black men for a peaceful demonstration against the suppression? And you supporting him and endorsing him as a Democrat after he was a Republican last year? And the year before that?
Oh, get out.
Listen, he was with Don Guardian, was running as a Republican. Frank Gilliam was running as a Democrat. He supported the Republican Guardian for 5 years while he was in office. And then when he ran against Gilliam, he said, I'm still going to support the Republican. Then the Democratic Party going to endorse him? Come on, man. Listen. See, I ain't know all that. See, and that's what they don't want people to know. But that's why we have to vote. But after the voting, we got to educate people. That's more important than voting on votes because we have a responsibility. Because if you don't know, and that's why a lot of people, oh man, don't let him speak. The reason being because if I'm waking you up, you're accountable now. Right. Everybody listen to what you say and what we say, and they know it's the truth. You're accountable to doing something about it because we giving you direction to do it.
Okay, we gonna
so
wrap
some
this
people don't
up.
want to hear it.
Some people don't want to hear it.
Right.
We got like 5 more minutes. We're gonna wrap this up. So again, voting is very important. We all need to get out, mail in, get out, and do call somebody. If you have text everybody in your phone and make sure that they vote. Says, are you going to vote? No, don't ask them. Say, vote. Text everybody in your list on your phone and tell them to vote. Okay? Call everybody that you can and tell them to vote because this is the most important election that you may ever see in your lifetime. It is dire that we do the right thing. And I'm going to give Steve the last words.
Well, I couldn't say it any better. You know, voting is a privilege, and if you make it that way. And towards getting our freedom, the only way we can exercise our right of freedom is through the first exercise is vote.
Right.
And then it's about the responsibility. Because if we're not holding our elected officials accountable, if we don't have access to our government, and it's not being transparent, it's because you have not held them responsible because your vote, I can't speak for your vote. You can only speak for your vote because one person, one vote. So you're responsible now to educate yourself and how to hold that person accountable. And we can work together that as long as we have the same agenda and the same principles. And I'm sure if everybody is a human being, there's a lot of human rights violations that's been against the black man here in America,
Yeah.
especially in Atlantic City at this point. And there come a point where we have to actually take it to the United Nations for a human rights violation of what they've been doing to us as human beings, even with their constitution. Well, so I want to. That's something that it's real big to work on, but I think all we know that all those African nations, and we have a lot of African nations in the United Nations, that we if we put it up for a vote, the human rights violation of America given to black people, that we will win that vote. Well, but it takes to vote locally right now, what you're doing, and exercising and holding it responsible. So like you said, everybody on your cell phone, start with it. Did you vote? Or vote now. Vote now. Start texting, do group text, whatever you can do. You go to Messenger on your Facebook, vote, vote, vote. Election day is the 3rd, which is Tuesday. That's when the deadline is over. After that, you cannot cast that vote. What we've been seeing and what we end up seeing, people think they're going to be able to go to the polls and vote. It's going to be a line. And if you got the patience, and if you don't make it through there in Russian, your vote may not count. So you got to make it to that box. And we only got one in Atlantic City, and that's 1301 Bacharach Boulevard, right in front of City Hall, in front of the county. You can actually take that vote, but that's where I took mine. I took it. I took a picture of me vote. And you ex-offenders and people probation and parole, please take a picture of you first time voting. That's very important. It means so much to the generations and the legacy of our people moving forward. But I would just want to say, vote. Take that ballot right now today. If it's sitting somewhere, fill it out now because you are late. You are late. The voting started last 2 weeks ago.
Give that address again.
So 1301 Bacharach Boulevard. And that's between the county building and Atlantic City City Hall. And it's a mailbox. It just looks like a mailbox. It says Atlantic County mailbox. And that's a legal box. That's not belongs to the mailman. The Board of Elections come there with the Board of Elections supervisors and the sheriff's office to empty that box to make sure nothing happens. And they do it on a daily basis. And it's open 24 hours. You can vote. So it's really not too much excuses, but we got to beware of the voter suppression. It's going to happen as long as you wait. You're going to be suppressed more. So I want to thank you, congratulate you for voting, man. It means a lot, and that's how proud we feel about it. But please vote.
Thank you for all that you said, and we don't have to do this again because knowledge is key. And if we don't know about certain things, there's nothing we can do about it. So you have a show coming up at 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah, 4 o'clock, WEHA, 100.5 FM. You can see it on Facebook. You can WEHA, or you can go to my Facebook. You'll see it live on there.
All right, my brother. I do appreciate it.
I appreciate it. More knowledge, the better, man. Just share it. It's knowledge is something we have that we're supposed to share, not to hold in.
Amen. Each one teach one.
That's right. Good to see you.
All right.
Thanks again.